Alrighty, so there is a massive difference between quoting someone else and speaking from experience. And I love how Neville quoted the Bible. And I love how he quoted Blake. And I love how he quoted. And I really adore how he spoke from his experience. See, that's the biggie. We're all speaking from experience, but a lot of people are speaking from a lack of experience. I noticed Neville lacked something. Are you ready for it? Neville lacked bullshit. He also lacked tolerance. He didn't tolerate bullshit. I love those couple times in the Q&As where he calls people on their shit. Because if you're devoted to truth and you're speaking from experience and somebody comes at you with a hypothetical, theoretical, comparison contrast, that's right, just like Neville, right? See, people get lost in their heads. It's like learning about kissing or kicking. God, I used to have, I dated this girl and her little cousin was an expert on Nintendo karate and kung fu games. And he's telling me how to be a karate guy. It's like, look, little Jimmy, I'm sorry. You're an expert with your thumbs. I'm an expert in the freaking ring. I wasn't always. Here's the fun thing. I started out exactly where you are. Drawing a line in the sand. So many times in life, this is how it works. It begins with a little bit of cortisol. I've got this lovely Winnie the Pooh book. It's a little miniature Winnie the Pooh book. It's ancient. It's about the size of my palm. And it's called Eeyore Loses a Tail. And there's a little sketch on the front of it, and you can see Eeyore doesn't have a tail. And that's a cortisol moment that grabs your attention. And the difference between a child and an adult is this. An adult, especially a new age adult, which I used to be, will go, I can't let that into my consciousness. I have to cancel that. If I focus on Eeyore not having a tail even for a second, that might make me lose my tail. You get how ridiculous that is? Neville read the newspaper. He didn't hide from the news. He was interested in it. I generally am not. Victoria, reads a little bit on the Apple News thing since we have it. But I don't want you to have to hide from anything. Because if you have to hide from anything, you have to hide from everything. So Eeyore lost his tail. And we talk about being like little children. Little children go, what happened? How'd he find it? They go on the adventure with him. You see, you came here as God to have an adventure of a lifetime. You had to forget who you are and how this works so you could discover again who you are and how this works by giving life to the lovely. One of the things that I notice is critics don't do that. Critics are just critical. It's a state, that's fine. Been there, done that. I criticized people. See, now I poke fun at dumb shit, just like Neville did. Meanwhile, speaking from experience. The other side of that coin is hearing from experience. Neville Goddard taught to hear what you would hear. Hear it how you would hear it if your wish were fulfilled. He didn't say to walk around making affirmations all day long. You see, affirmations aren't what got you in trouble. Affirmations are not what made you fat. Affirmations didn't make me fat. I imagined something, and then I put on weight. I imagined something, and then I went broke. But what if it ends? What if the lucky streak ends? What if the economy collapses? Radio. I was just talking with my friend Mal yesterday, and we were talking about the Bill Bryson book, 1927. I love that book. You go back 100 years, shit was hitting the fan. You go back 100 years, cool shit was happening. And you had a choice back then like you got a choice now. Like I said, some of you are like me, ready to draw the line in the sand. When you draw the line in the sand, you decide, you know what, I'm not going to continue to do that anymore. Yeah, the word decision, by the way, is a fascinating one. To decide. See, decision, decide. Decide comes from the same root as homicide, fratricide, suicide. You have to kill off all other options. You want to make this your way of life? Yeah, it's crash commercial time. You want to make this your way of life? It can't be your interest. You want to make this your way of life? You can't just be a collector. I got a guy. For 15 years now, he's been collecting business books. He reads them, he quotes them, he shares them on the Facebook. 15 years later, he still is flat broke and working a dead-end job. He hasn't had enough yet. He hasn't drawn the line in the sand. He's not like Eeyore, right? At some point, you go from having lost your tail to the adventure of finding it. At some point, you go from losing the truth about you that sets you free. You forget who you are. You forget how this works so you can come here and discover it again while giving life to what you want in the world. Alrighty. If you got gold today, here's my invite, manifestingmasterycourse.com. It's that 90-day adventure everyone's talking about. Not everyone. I don't think Al Gore's talking about it or Joe Biden. That's fine. But here's the thing, guys. If you let this become your total way of life, this becomes your total way of life. If you're just looking for tips and tricks, hey, Mr. 20, what's the tip you can give me to imagine this? What's the trick I gotta do now? See, tips and tricks, I remember as a little boy I went into the magic store. And in the magic store, most of what they sold were tricks. If you bought the trick, anyone could do it. The problem with when you buy a trick is then everyone tries to figure it out, or the bully in the neighborhood takes it off you and shares, hey, it's just a trick and this dumbass spent money on it. On the other hand, when you discover this is the truth about you that sets you free, it's not a trick to make something happen. When you discover it's all about exploring you. This is what I love about mentors. This is what, I've got Charles, the master magician. I see him daily at the pool. This is what I love about mentors. What I love about actual learning. Because your number one investment is you. And it's not about tricks. It's about you growing, sharing, exploring, discovering you. If you got gold, manifestingmasterycourse.com. Have a lovely day. See ya.